Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Suburban Proletarian. I have had my 2022 Kawasaki KLR650 Traveler ABS for, I think, just a little bit more than a month now. I've had the first service done. I did post a video a few weeks ago, a sort of preliminary moto vlog type video where I just rode the bike and talked a little bit about it. But I've had it about a month. It just ticked over 1,000 miles on the odometer this morning, and I thought I was going to be working tonight, which is why I have sort of an improvised phone camera set up here. I hope everything's framed okay, but it turned out I didn't have to work tonight, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to just talk for a few minutes. I'm going to try not to make this too long. About my impressions of the KLR so far, where I see it going in the future, how I'm going to develop this bike a little bit, what my plans are, and a little bit about what my plans for the channel are. And I usually kind of try to speak off the cuff. I don't like to use a whiteboard or try to read a script because it just sounds stilted, so I try to be natural. But I have a fair amount I want to talk about, so I do have some notes with me today, and bear with me. I hope the clipboard doesn't bother you. But as I said, I've had the bike just about a month. I just turned 1,000 miles today. I've had enough of a chance to ride it, and under somewhat different conditions. I've taken it, off the pavement a little bit. I haven't done any serious off-road with it yet, but I know this is sort of a divisive bike. It first came out in 1987. It was discontinued in 2018. Everybody thought it was dead because it was sort of really pretty antiquated even at that point. And then suddenly they brought it back last year for the 2022 model year. And I think a 2023 model year is planned. So I'm interested to see what colors and things come out with the 2023. There are 3 versions of this. There's the base model, which is available in this orange, and it's also available in tan. Most of you probably already know this. Then there's the adventure model, which has sort of digital camouflage on the lower fairing, and it has some accessory lights and some engine guards and a couple of other little things. And then there's this, which is the Traveler model. It comes with this top case, which I'll talk a little bit about, and it comes with a USB port and a 12-volt power outlet. And so far, my general impression of the bike has been very, very favorable. I like it very much so far. It's everything I imagined it would be. I didn't come into this with some sort of notion that I was getting a bargain basement Tenere 700 or Africa Twin or something. The KLR650, although it is an adventure bike and it's kind of in that same class, it kind of defies classification. Keep in mind, the last 8 years, I've owned a Yamaha TW200. I put in about 8,000 miles on that bike, and that's another bike that's kind of difficult to classify. So I don't know, maybe that's my genre. It's sort of hard to classify sort of off-roadish bikes. But the TW200, as much as I loved it, it taught me a lot of patience. It taught me how to deal with a rather slow bike, but a bike that could take you pretty much anywhere. And a lot of that translates over to the KLR 650 just on a grander scale. I actually rode 2 up with my wife on the TW200. We did a couple of trips that were not super long, but when we ranged pretty far from home with 2 people on that tiny little bike. And it didn't work well, but we got it done. And I'm pretty resourceful at taking an inappropriate machine and doing inappropriate things with it. But so I'm very, very pleased with the KLR 650. The number one complaint a lot of people have is the fact that it really doesn't fit into a classification. It's an adventure bike, but it's not really like any other adventure bike on the market. It's much more of a dual sport bike. It's probably, I would say, more closely comparable to something like the Suzuki DR650 than it is to something like the Tenere 700 or the Africa Twin. but it definitely has the chops to do some touring. You've got some cargo capacity. You've got this nice comfy seat with lots of space. You can ride two up. You can fit some soft luggage in front here. Why do I have a rubber mallet sitting there? So it's a big bike. It weighs, I think, close to 500 pounds. It's got a big gas tank, over 6 gallons. I don't know the exact I think it's 6.2 gallons maybe, but Kawasaki has not the greatest track record when it comes to being absolutely honest about dimensions and capacities and weights and horsepowers and things like that. The bike is ostensibly 40 horsepower, which makes it very underpowered compared to almost anything in its class, except maybe the Royal Enfield Himalayan, which I think is 25 horsepower. But although Kawasaki claims 40 horsepower for this bike, I watched a video of the bike being dyno tested, and it came in actually at about 35 horsepower, peak horsepower. But I am used to riding slow vehicles, the TW200. My other two vehicles I have right now are a 4-cylinder Toyota Tacoma and a 1980 Mercedes 240D. So I'm kind of used to slow vehicles, and this thing really seems like a rocket ship in comparison. If you're concerned about well, it depends on what your history is. I have a rather limited frame of reference, although I have a Honda CB900, which is pretty fast. But so if you're used to really fast bikes, this might be a problem for you. But when I'm riding the KLR650 in traffic, I'm still, kind of egging people on, like, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. It's not slow. You're not having a hard time keeping up with traffic. As I mentioned, it's got a very comfortable saddle. It fits me well. I have to sit a little bit further back. I can ride with my wife as a pillion, and I get a little cramped up, but when I'm on the bike by myself, there's plenty of room to move back and forth on this seat, and so I sit back a little ways, and it's perfectly big enough for me. I can flat-foot it on this bike easily, but it's plenty tall. I think the bike looks great. You compare it with earlier generations of the KLR650, you can see that this is a KLR, but they've made a fair amount of changes to it, and I think it ends up looking a little bit better. They changed the rake on the front fork, which makes the bike a little more stable. It puts that wheel, or the hub of the wheel, well, I guess the whole wheel, out a little bit. They made the swing arm longer, so the rear wheel's a little bit further to the rear. The old KLR always looked like it was sat on top of its wheels, like a hen sitting on her eggs. And the new KLR is a little bit more stretched out, not dramatically so, but I think it gives it a little bit less of a smushed look. The old KLR, the original KLRs, looked like somebody had driven them into a brick wall, and they kind of got compressed, which was amplified by this tall, high-capacity gas tank. The gas tank is still very tall, very peaky, and very jowly. It hangs down low. That's the key to its large fuel capacity. But the new fairing that was fitted on the 2022 model kind of blends everything together, and it ends up looking a little less, I don't even know the word, kind of smushed longitudinally and extended altitudinally. Is that a word? I don't know. I just think the bike looks great. As far as the looks, one thing people are kind of a little hard on sometimes is this front mudguard or fender. The beak, as it's known, and it does look like a broken beak. It looks like the beak on some kind of slightly evil cartoon crow or vulture. It's got that weird bend in it, and some people don't like it. I think it's distinctive. You know you're looking at a KLR when you see that nose there. And they do sell aftermarket mudguards or fenders that are a little bit smoother, maybe a little bit more traditionally beautiful. But I like this fender. I think it looks like a KLR. If you remember the actress Jennifer Grey, well, you don't have to remember her. She's not dead or anything, but her career is pretty much dead. She was that kind of hot girl that was in Red Dawn and Dirty Dancing and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. She was that sort of very beautiful girl, but she had this, she had a hell of a schnoz on her. And as soon as she had a really good quality nose job done, nobody recognized her and her career was more or less over. So some people hate the beak. I kind of like it, and I'm definitely not changing mine. Now, there are some things that I am going to change. I like the top case. It's got lots of volume. It basically has the same construction as the side cases that come on the Adventure model. But those, and it is a little bit plasticky and flimsy. The problem with the side cases is if you drop the bike and, if you ride this thing at all off-road, you're going to drop the bike. Those cases are going to get smashed up immediately. I'm hoping that the top case lasts pretty long. It's got good capacity. I think it looks fairly decent. It locks with the same key as the ignition switch. And I'm very happy with this. I don't know that I would have liked the side cases on the Adventure model. And that's another problem with this bike, is a general lack of drop protection. If you're riding at relatively low speeds off-road and your bike falls over, most bikes can survive that if they have some sort of drop protection. When a bike falls over, you go from having 2 points of contact with the ground to having 3 points of contact. You're still in contact with the front wheel and the rear wheel, but now something else has to hit the ground. And on this bike, that's going to be these plastics. And as you can see, they're not the stiffest things in the world. So I'm not taking this thing off-road in any serious capacity until I address that. Things that I've already done, I don't know what your feelings are about the Thermobob. I did it. It's right in here. It was one of the first things I did. I only think I had about 400 miles on the bike when I did the Thermobob. I replaced the steel handlebars, the steel Kawasaki handlebars, with Pro Taper Sport aluminum bars. These are the high ATV bend. It seems to be the most popular recommended bend for aftermarket handlebars. It does put the grips up a little bit higher. It makes it a little bit easier to stand and ride. And I did this generic Amazon phone mount. It's a pretty nice one. It stays put. It uses sort of a Chinese clone of a ram ball and arm system with the two arm halves that clamp around the balls with a screw. This works really well to hold my phone. It doesn't move around very much. Imestu is the brand name. I got it from Amazon for like 15 bucks. I've ordered a couple of things. I did talk about drop protection. I have ordered a set of Dirt Racks crash bars. I got the earlier model. They have two models now. One that's sort of adapted for the Adventure model. One that'll fit, I think, just the base and the Traveler. I got that one. That was the one that came out first. Those are on order, but I haven't received them yet. There are others available from T-Rex. I think Happy Trails is making crash bars now for this, and maybe a couple of other companies. I'm not sure. I got the Dirt Racks model, but I haven't got those yet. I got some generic Amazon foot pegs. One really common complaint about this bike, and I can attest to it, is these foot pegs with the rubber coating. These get very slippery when they get wet at all. I rode this in the rain the other week, and I had to get off the bike to close the gate at work. And when I was getting back on the bike, thanks to this high top case, I've got to do a cowboy mount where I put one foot on the peg and swing my leg over. My left foot slipped off of the peg, and I almost had a bit of an accident that would have been quite painful. So I'm definitely replacing these foot pegs with something that has more grip. I got cheap cast iron foot pegs that are made in China. I don't remember the brand name. They're available on Amazon. You can get the same ones on eBay. The ones on Amazon are like 25 bucks. I paid the money for that because I read in a review these pegs fit my 2022 KLR perfectly with no alteration. I couldn't find that on any of the $8 pegs on eBay. Keep in mind, the cheapest thing on a KLR is the rider. So I would have liked to save a few bucks, but I went with the Amazon pegs nonetheless. Another complaint is that the foot pegs are rubber mounted. They're rubber damped, in fact. And people complain that they have a tendency to sag when you stand on them. I don't think that's too much. I like the fact that they're rubber damped because they do damp vibrations quite a bit. I'm not worried about them sagging as long as my boots are gripping on the pegs. And with these cast iron models from China, which I've used on other bikes, they have a lot of grip. They've got these little teeth molded into the top of them, and they grip really well. And I think those are going to work just fine with the mounts that are on the bike already. In the future, I have plans for this bike. These handguards that come from Kawasaki on the KLR are pretty much a joke. They look kind of like bark busters, but they're just molded polyethylene things. First time you drop the bike, they're going to snap right off. They do offer good wind protection, and probably they would offer a little bit of protection riding through brush or whatever, but they're not going to hold up. So I'm definitely going to be putting bark busters on here. These mirrors are not good. They get knocked very easily out of alignment. Now, of course, I can't get it to do that, but they will break loose and flop around. They're small, they're round, they don't give you a very good view. So I'm going to get some aftermarket mirrors from Double Take Adventure mirrors. They use ball mounts at the base of where the stock mirrors go, and then they have a ram style. Well, actually, I think the arms are made by Ram, and then the mirror has another ball on it, so you can adjust them a number of different ways. You can fold them completely in for trail riding. If you want to, you can very quickly take them completely off the bike, and you're left with two Ram ball mounts that you can use to mount a trail GPS or a camera or something like that. So I'm definitely getting the Double Take mirrors, adventure mirrors. One thing to keep in mind is those Double Take mirrors. I buy a lot of stuff from Amazon just because they usually have the best price. That is not the case on those Double Take mirrors. I would buy them from Rocky Mountain ATV. They're like half of the price that they are from Amazon. This windscreen is awful. It works okay around town, but out on the highway, if you're taller than maybe, I don't know, 5'10", 5'11", something like that, you're going to get buffeted. There are two positions, a high and a low. I have it adjusted to the high position. I'm 6'1" plus. At one point in time, I was 6'2", but I'm shrinking. And I get blasted pretty hard with wind up around the top of my helmet. I get buffeted, lots of wind noise. So I want to do something about the windscreen. I'm debating between some sort of clip-on spoiler or the risers from 3D Cycle Parts, which raise the windscreen and angle it more forward, kind of like a T7. So that's something I'm going to be doing in the future. This muffler is crap. It weighs 14.5 pounds. It sounds terrible. I know you don't get a huge power increase from an aftermarket exhaust, but this bike, although I think it has ample power, it can use all the help it can get. So I am going to be putting an aftermarket muffler on here, probably from Delcovic, just because of price. There are some good options from Yoshimura and Leo Vinci, but they're quite a bit more expensive. The thing I'm debating about at the moment, and if any of you have an opinion, I'd love to hear about it in the comments down below, is length of Delcovic muffler. There's like an 8 to 9 inch muffler, which is going to come out to about here. They are said to be very loud. The guys that put them on, who want their bike to be loud, say they're loud, and then now I have to wear earplugs when I'm riding. The 13 to 14 inchers, I think, are made that length because that's the road legal length in the UK. Delcovic is a British company. Those guys say, I like the sound of it, but my wife says it's too loud. And then they make like a 17 or 18 inch muffler, which I would kind of err towards that because it's still going to sound better than this muffler. It's still going to be a little bit louder than this muffler. The problem is the 17 or 18 inch mufflers stick out to like here. And I'm not sure how that's going to look. I don't know if that's going to look any better than this pot-bellied thing that this catalytic converter that's attached to this 14-pound boat anchor. So if any of you have any opinions on length of mufflers, I would love to hear that. And lastly, something I'm going to be doing in the near future is some sort of throttle lock, some sort of poor man's cruise control. Either a throttle lock and or a cramp buster cruise assist. That's these little paddles you see here that help you relieve your hands when you're on the highway at cruising speeds. Something like that for making longer trips because, wow, these flies are terrible. Because this has a fairly strong throttle return spring and your hands do get cramped on the highway. And this is a bike that's meant for going long distances. So skid plate, that's probably coming in the future. The plastic skid plate on here is basically useless. It will deflect gravel and things from hitting the engine case, but that's about it. A lot of people do a skid plate right away. I have passed on that for the moment because really a skid plate comes into play when you're dealing with obstructions in the road that are as high as the bottom of the engine case. And I'm simply avoiding that for the moment. That day will come and a skid plate will come. But right now I'm more focused on crash bars. And that brings us finally to the doohickey. Now I did do, as I said, I did do the thermo bob right away. That makes a lot of sense to me. The doohickey, I feel like the jury is still out on. I don't know what to do with that. Even Eagle Mike, who's the main purveyor of doohickey modifications, even he says, when I've seen him interviewed, that you probably have 5,000 or 10,000 good miles out of your factory balance chain tensioner assembly. So I feel like I have some time to do the doohickey if I do it at all. I have to do more research. If any of you has a really firm opinion on that, I would love to hear about it in the comments down below. And I think that's pretty much all I have to go over for today. I apologize for the clipboard. I apologize for my cell phone, which is clamped to a stake that I drove in the ground because I don't have a tripod with me. Anyway, I made this video mostly because I want to see what your reaction is. Do you want to see more motorcycling content? This is where my brain is at the moment. I know a lot of you are probably here for watches or knives or just general stuff. I'm in motorcycle mode. So if any of you are interested, I can keep you updated as I make upgrades to the bike. I can even show you the installation of the upgrades if you're interested in how-tos. There's definitely going to be more moto vlogging. There's going to be more of me riding on the road, whether you like it or not. This is, after all, my channel, and this is what I'm into right now. So hopefully you enjoy seeing some moto vlogging, and I'm looking forward to working on my skills, working on some of my my video equipment and my microphones and things to raise production value for moto vlogging. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I didn't really want to make this long, although the sun has gone down while I've been talking, so I imagine it might be a little bit long. But anyway, I'm going to get this edited and posted up, and I'm going to start working on some new content. And when I get that out there, I hope to see all of you then. Later, guys.